Ella, you have a pretty dope story.
And I want to. Dopest.
We're going to go into some more dope. We have a lot of dope stories, but we're going to go into the first one, and that's about your catastrophic injury and how you went from that into all the badassery that you deal with now.
Okay.
So let's hear it. What you got?
So I'm assuming you're talking about the broken back girl.
Yeah, that seems like that's relatively catastrophic.
That was my first and my biggest injury. So when I grew up racing horses and 25, 50-mile races, super dope sport. It's called endurance. And when I was 12, I had a really bad accident where I fell off the horse, broke the L4 and the L5 in the spine. But crazy enough, we went an entire year, had no idea. I went through 5 different doctors. I think one doctor put me in a metal back brace that went from the collarbone to the pubic bone. I wore that 22 hours out of the day. It gave me numerous amount of neck issues. My ass was like destroyed. That fucked me up. And then I had another doctor who gave me Oxycontin. I was 12 years old. Okay, so I was given Oxycontin. Very aggressive. Very aggressive. And this individual also told me I was being a big baby. So we had all these doctors like scrambling, and basically my life turned very static. I got to the point where I wasn't walking. My mom was picking me up out of the bathtub. I was being partially homeschooled because like I could just not make it through school. Yeah. So finally we went to this chiropractor, and I say that with a loose term because she ended up not even being qualified. She started doing this treatment on me called decompression, which is where they kind of put a strap around your ribs and one around your hips and pull you apart. Kind of like a medieval torture chamber.
Which can be helpful sometimes.
For sure.
For some things, not a broken spine probably.
No, not in my case. So I was a special case. I ended up having a birth defect where my spine wasn't connected to the sacrum. So in simple terms, that's like lower half not connected to upper half. Yeah. Right? Okay, so she started doing these treatments, and then one day she's like, oh, let's up it by 50 pounds. So they increased the pull 25 pounds, each direction. The best way I can describe my pain that day is if you've ever seen like a guitar string like strung so tightly it like spirals out.
Oh, wow.
She basically ripped all the tendons and little muscles in my back. And that was the only reason I was able to walk as a little girl. So I immediately was just like, I started screaming, fainted. 2 weeks later, I was at this emergency special clinic for spine. And this doctor, we just got super lucky. He was always booked out. And then suddenly he had an opening. He spent 5 hours with me that day and was like, I think something serious is going on. I think she's going to be crippled. We need to do surgery. So in 2 weeks, we went and had surgery. And it was just an exploratory surgery. They didn't really know what they were looking for. And so what happened was when they finally opened me up, they found the reason why they could never find the fact that, one, I wasn't connected throughout an entire year. Yeah. And all the breaks was because my body built this big block of bone in the mid-back area to repair itself. So I just had this random like cube that hid like the separation, and it also hid the L4 and L5 break. So they went in and they said it took like maybe 4 hours to chip it out. And so they took out the big block of bone. They connected my sacrum to my spine by 4 metal rods and 6 hooks. So my x-ray is pretty gnarly. It kind of looks like these 2 big C's. And so when I now envision this, when I bend over, you see like these 2 C's allowing me to bend over from the sacrum spine. Super gnarly. And then they also had to bone graft my hips to fix the L4, L5 break. And then I also had spondylolisthesis, which is a condition where vertebrae slip out of the column into the towards the abdomen. And then it's kind of like a slipping disc. So you have to bone graft that back. So I was totally reconstructed as a 12-year-old. And basically, I think the next day they made me wake up and I was 10,000 pounds in my spine. And so 2 years, it took me about 2 years to really recover. I mean, I was just a young girl. It's not like I had a crazy strong body or anything. Yeah. So I kept trying to play sports. I grew up in a very powerful family. Just to give dynamics, the oldest bro is a Navy SEAL, the other brother is a Marine MARSOP now. Damn, we fucking, I don't know what my parents did or what they fed us, but we just knew how to work, whether it was mental stuff or whatever. We just did it. So I knew allowing my back to cripple me wasn't a choice. So I just, and also when you're that young and you grow up in such chronic pain, you kind of learn to just live in survival mode. So I just knew how to just get to point A.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I had to do. I had to do these small little tasks just so I can make it through my day, which I'll explain later on, made me like a beast. So, I started trying to run and do like cross country and stuff. Unfortunately, I found out right away I couldn't do basketball or volleyball. Like, I couldn't afford being pushed around.
You
it
couldn't
really
jump
hurt.
and like be dynamic like that? Okay.
But I could run.
Yeah.
I hated running.
Yeah,
Hated running. But I was like, cool, I'll just run. Ended up becoming a decent runner. So by the time I was like a senior in high school, I went to regionals and cross country and track. And I was both a sprinter and long distance. And my senior year, throughout high school, I was actually kind of a bad kid. I actually used to pop a lot of pills. I used to drink all the time.
Well, you started taking Oxycontin when you were 12.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like, it kind of set you up for failure as far as...
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you actually re-said that because I always forget about that. I was so like already addicted to pills. So I used to go to high school and I used to take sometimes I'd take the heavy stuff, but I used to just abuse Benadryl. That was my thing. I used to take like 6 Benadryl and fight it off all day. Who like, why is that fun? I don't know. But back then, that was like something that I just always was numb.
Yeah.
You know? So I suddenly cut everything cold turkey my senior year, and I just like always wrote down in my journal, I'm going to be great. I had no idea what it meant at the time.
Yeah.
I just knew like the more I kept saying it, the more I could do it. And so I just started running. And so I made a goal to run a half marathon. I ended up like doing all these little 5Ks and I ended up like winning all of them.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but I started growing like a mini following. And this is the time when like Instagram wasn't live. Okay. There was no Instagram. There was just Facebook. So I remember like randomly, casually like saying, oh, I won this 5K. And suddenly like people were coming towards me.
Yeah.
So I ended up running the half marathon. 2 weeks later, I was like, damn, I'm bored of just running. And so somehow I found out about a Spartan race.
Yeah.
I entered into a Tough Mudder. I ended up winning the Tough Mudder.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I did a Spartan race, which is the race I like to say that made me famous.
Yeah.
So I did the Spartan race in 2011. It was a championship race. I ended up showing, and I beat everyone by 20 minutes. I outperformed these women who were Xterra pro athletes.
Yeah.
Which Xterra is like the ultra marathon triathlon people.
Yeah.
Like league. So just to make this sound like a movie moment, because it totally was. Like a couple of weeks later, Joe DeSena himself ended up contacting me.
He's the founder of Spartan Race.
He's the founder of Spartan Race. And at the time he was like, hey, we're designing and we're going to have a pro team in a few months and we want to sign you. I'm 18 years old at the time. I was like, hell yeah. I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know if that meant me money. I just knew I was given an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So sure enough, 2012 came and I ended up collecting a few other contracts to compete. And before I knew it, it was like every month I was going somewhere. 2012, I did a bodybuilding show just for shits and giggles. Quickly turned out that it was a shit. Did not like it. Not at all. So I was just kind of like pitter-patting into some things for sure. And then now throughout all of this, I obviously had like lots of issues with my back. I like to stress the importance of how inconsistent I am, but consistent.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times I have to take off days when I don't.
Yeah.
Because there might be a day where I wake up and my back's like, no, we're not doing anything today. And it could be from something I did the day before, or it just could be the fact that I'm a metal spine.
Yeah.
Like it really is a hard struggle and it does affect a lot of things I do, but I've been pretty smart about working around it, and it really reinforces me to constantly be gentle to myself, like in all types of ways, because one of my biggest lessons, which I'm kind of like jumping around, but recently I was invited to the WWE.
Oh, really?
Last year, yeah, for sure. Yeah, last year I was invited to the WWE for their tryouts to be one of their divas.
Yeah.
Okay, so random. Like somehow someone found me online and was like, hey, we're going to fly you. And so I flew up to Orlando last year to do the tryouts, for sure. Super cool thing. I went through their medical process and I was cleared, but they were a little wary about my back. Sure enough, the next day we go to do tryouts and they end up cutting me and say, hey, we're not going to let you try out yet. We want to get more paperwork from your doctor. So I struggle and I struggle. I get the paperwork. Sure enough, they still tell me, oh, we're not going to accept you to try out because of your back. And like, even though I know the WWE wouldn't have been a good thing for my back, it really wasn't like my ultimate dream by any means.
Yeah.
It still was so brutal for me because I was being told I couldn't do something when
Yeah.
I physically could have done the little tryouts. Even if I didn't want to take it further and like sign a contract and be an actual wrestler, which
Yeah.
wouldn't have been kind of not smart for me. But the fact that they say, no, you can't do this because of what you have, like your metal spine. It was just a hard lesson of like learning that I'm very, very fragile at the end of the day. Even though like my mind, hell no, like I could go
Yeah.
run a mountain, I'll be fine. I'll carry 80 pounds for 5 days. But the fact that I still actually am very brittle, it sucks. So that was also trying to be gentle with myself. It's like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. You didn't really want it that bad, Ella. But it sucks when like you have a mind that wants to do everything, but your body just literally can't. And so that's what I've been dealing with since I was 12. And it sucks. So yeah, I'll go back to just like the death races and stuff. So I started doing Spartan race, was doing all those races. And then sure enough, Spartan races were bored and the little multi-day obstacle or the simple obstacle races were boring to me. So I started doing adventure races, which definitely is my cup of tea or cup of coffee for sure.
So what are the adventure races? What's the difference in the adventure race versus an obstacle race?
So there's kind of like two types, I would say. There's the conventional and unconventional, and so like more so traditional. And so you might be doing anything like hiking, trekking, rock climbing, orienteering, shooting a bow and arrow, guns, anything survival task mainly, okay? And then, so my unconventional ones, which was like the death race, Sisu Iron, and some TPK races. Those are all different adventure races. Those you have absolutely like usually no idea what you're doing until you show up and do it.
Cool.
So that was what I actually really liked, because one thing about, so the death race, which was my favorite, they no longer do it anymore. You would literally get this ridiculous gear list, and it'd be like, you need a bag of human hair, a pound of coins, an onion, your hammer, your like axe. You'd bring all this like random shit, and you'd have your big rucksack, and you're trying to make this rucksack not weigh more than 27 pounds because here are these guys telling you, oh, you could be racing for a day or 4 days. So you really never knew, and you really never knew like when you were going to eat next or like what your next task was. So that mystery for an endurance athlete is terrifying. But for me, it was kind of like my life. Like I'd always never known if I could do the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So it was real kind of simple for me because it goes back to my way of thinking, super survival mode. I wasn't really thinking like emotionally or consciously, because when you're thinking consciously, you're always like analyzing everything. When you're thinking emotionally, you're getting too attached and thinking about what you'd rather feel. And survival, you're just like, okay, like you want me to eat this onion, okay, and then I'll go roll 5,000 miles, like okay, that's what you have. That's what you have to be, and that's how my life has been. Like, okay, like I'm just gonna be in pain. I'll just make the best of it. Like, So the death race and adventure races, you just don't know what you're doing really, and you're out in some of the most gorgeous land. Like I was in Vermont a lot, Canada, Mexico City. I was on Popocatépetl. I think I butchered it, but it's a big volcano in Mexico.
Whoa.
Gorgeous. So we actually, the Mexican death race of 2015, which I won, by the way. I went, we like climbed the volcano and we came down, and the next morning we were being penalized for something, and we had like, I don't know, 10,000 like jumping jacks to do. So we're like doing these jumping jacks, and we look up and the volcano just goes off. And literally like 3 hours ago, we were on top of it. Like near it. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, super gorgeous. So one of my favorite factors of racing is just being outside.
Yeah.
And we were discussing earlier how nature is very healing. It's like the simplest medicine you can get. Like, as I always say, like you should just go outside if you're not feeling well. Like even if the weather sucks, like you might find some type of appreciation or get in tune with yourself with being in the element.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's funny because you look at the adventure races and the death races and all. There's so many of them now. There's tons of them.
Billions.
Yeah. Literally billions of different kinds of ways you can go torture yourself. And it's like you got geared up for that at a young age because you had to just deal with the shit. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's something you really didn't, wasn't your fault. No. It just is something that happened. But it's funny to me how we as a species are so privileged and so comfortable that we try to find a way to get ourselves outside of the comfort.
Yeah, really.
Because you do learn so much in that.
Yeah.
You learn so much in the shit. I mean, I personally had like a back injury, not as bad as yours, but I played football full contact from 4th grade.
That does some work, though.
Into college, yeah, and it's a completely. I was working oil and gas construction and blew out my S1 disc, which is the very bottom disc in your back. Couldn't walk. Couldn't it was awful.
It changes everything.
I was like dragging my leg around like a fucking pirate, and I'm sitting here like. I don't know what to do. It was my first existential crisis. I was like, who am I anymore? Like, really, who am I if I can't play this game?
Yeah.
Because I'd been playing that game and that had created my identity. That's why I didn't have to do any work in high school. It's why I got the friends that I had. It's why it had created everything for me, and it was gone. And it wasn't my choice that it was gone. It was just gone. But through that, I had to find a way to make the most of it and just live in pain.
Yeah, but losing that identity is a very crisis of its own.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, even though losing your identity as an athlete was brutal and painful, you moved into something more powerful because you learned from it. And like when I actually quit racing, because I had to quit in 2014-15, because actually during this entire career of being a little crazy badass athlete, I was actually terribly sick with bulimia the entire time.
Oh, wow.
So I actually... at the age of 20, decided and figured out that I was just going to kill myself, basically, because I couldn't stop. And I still carry those traits. I'm super perfectionist. So nowadays I do a lot of art and all these art. But I'll do art for people and I'll probably redo the drawing 20 times.
Yeah.
It's brutal. I'll get something good done and I'm like, because I just try so hard to be perfect, which is a very good thing, but also super hard. So that's why balancing that power is super beneficial. But losing that identity taught me that I could be something else without being too connected to the one thing. It's just when you buy your favorite couch and it burns, you have to learn to just kind of let go of things because you're really all you have.
Yeah.
So even if you do lose an identity, you can create a new one.
And the same thing is you're constructing your identity outside of yourself, which is not sustainable by any means. Something else we've talked about before is being able to turn yourself in. I think I was reading Meditations of Marcus Aurelius yesterday, and it talks about turning the body inside out to see how it works.
Oh God!
And not literally, but turning yourself inside out and see what makes you tick and what makes you flow. Yeah. And it's super crucial to living a full life, in my opinion, is finding a way to understand yourself. And a big part of that, as inconvenient as it may seem, is going through some heavy shit. And so I do want to go into that a little bit. So you were racing, and then you had you dealt with bulimia, right? So what was your thought process through that? Because I think that's something that's actually way more common than we assume.
Than we would like to.
Eating disorders, and I think it kind of comes down to the same construction of what you should or need to be based upon external factors. But I want to hear your thought process. What was your mind like in that scenario? Because you were already successful at 18. You were a sponsored athlete. That's huge, right? So what was that like?
Well, I think what happened was I grew up not having a body that worked. So when I finally had a body that worked, I over-obsessed with it. And so that control of wanting to have a body that worked and here's a body that can actually do things that my mind wants to do, I just went really obsessive with it. So first it started when I finally told you I'm going to be great. I remember the first thing that kind of ticked it off was I just started not eating.
Yeah.
And I started noticing I was getting a little lighter and I could kind of I'm getting into shape. And then sure enough, one time I did read online, this woman was eating a diet of 800 calories a day.
Yeah.
Okay. So I read that and I was like, shit, I can do 600. Sure enough, 600 turned into 500, 500 turned into 250 calories a day. And so sometimes I would literally eat and I'll go on a cardio machine and make sure that the calories I ate were burned on the cardio machine. Yeah. I was really pretty sad and crazy about it.
This is funny because the calories on the machine aren't the same as the calories in your body.
I know. I could say I'm 200 pounds and I'd be burning more calories, right? Or whatever. Yeah. But to my head, I just wanted to almost take my body away, I guess.
Yeah.
So I just started not eating. And I remember the first time I actually made myself vomit. I actually wrote it down in my journal. And it's a scary journal entry because I remember writing it. And I knew I would never be the same. And I wrote that. I hope I didn't just create a problem for myself, but I knew I couldn't stop. So I had been starving, and I was doing all these running, and like I couldn't keep up with it. I was literally sleeping all the time. I was like a ghost, bones. I mean, so right now I probably weigh like 155.
Yeah.
Back then, 2011, I probably weighed 115.
Yeah.
100 pounds. I was tiny. And so sure enough, one day I just couldn't handle not eating. And so I ate, and I just like binged for hours on burgers, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I felt so ashamed. And so I vomited. And then ever since then, like, I couldn't stop.
So you just binge and purge, and that was your cycle?
Yeah. So once I did that first vomit, I turned to bulimia.
Yeah.
So I was practicing anorexia for a while, and then I turned to bulimia, and I couldn't stop. So once bulimia happened,
well, it seems like a slippery slope, because once you get the feeling of eating, which is you get dopamine from that, and your body's fucking starving, but then you have the shame cycle, and then you go make yourself feel better by
and then like the more I've done studies on bulimia itself, most clients or most patients, I should say, who have bulimia never really have serotonin in the brain, which serotonin releases like satisfaction. So one thing that I got out of my binges was eating carbohydrates, which release
serotonin.
Releases typerton. What is it? Typerton or something? It starts with a T.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, it releases.
Basically makes you feel good.
Yeah, it releases a chemical that somewhat feels like serotonin.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're seeing is an individual who is empty, and the only way they can ever feel satisfied or happy was by over-consuming food.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you'd be eating for like hour or whatever it was, and you'd like have food in the esophagus, and you'd be like, oh God, I got to get rid of it. I'm ashamed.
Yeah.
And so that's what would just viciously recycle it. But the purging aspect of it was a whole negative connotation, because I'd get incredibly anxious to do it, but it was a releasement.
Yeah.
And then so I developed more severe bulimia triggers around my races. So racing made me super happy, but at the same time, it like crushed my world, because I'd get so worked up for it. I'd get so anxious. I'd spend the whole entire night like eating, vomiting. Every race I did, like I seriously did sick. I was vomiting. I was purging weeks and weeks. I would maybe have like 2 or 3 days where I'd be like, yes, I'm free. And then it would happen. Like, and most of the time, I just was numb, which is where I go back to how I grew up, because I grew up in such chronic pain. First off, no one understood it. For about a year, everyone like misdiagnosed me. Some people told me I was being a baby. Sometimes my parents didn't really understand like the physical pain I was in, and then that brought the depression. So for the longest time, I just grew up being like alone.
Misunderstood,
Yeah, and alone with my pain. So I just figured I had to be alone.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if I was terrified to speak out, because I definitely knew what I was doing. You can't, it is so dehumanizing.
It wasn't like subtle.
Yeah, it's very dehumanizing to stick forks down your throat like 6 times a day to vomit.
Yeah.
Like there's no way around that where you could be like, well, I had no idea my harm. Like I was fully aware, but I was so addicted and lost in it, because it also for some reason brought me success, because I was so dedicated to the art of bulimia. And I call it an art because you get really good at it. Yeah. I know that sounds super sadistic, but I was so good. I mean, I hid that shit, and I did that as a professional athlete for about 5 years.
So that's what I was going to go to next, is like the validation that you received. You were doing that, and you were winning, and you were getting validated. So it's like there was not a whole lot of incentive to change.
You want to you know when something gross too.
Yeah, sure.
So the validation. So speaking about the validation, I never felt. So another thing that really hurts an individual who is having eating disorder, which I feel like more people need to like understand, is the emotional pain of hiding it. It's so damaging. Okay, so when I would do my purging acts, which this is going to make me seem very weird, but this is 100% true. It was like a little setup. I'd go downstairs. I would barely have a thought process, but I remember every time I'd reach for a fork, even before I began a binge.
Yeah.
I would be staring at my hand, it'd be trembling, and say it was a peanut butter jar that I was about to start binging on, and then that would be turning into the whole cabinet, right?
Yeah.
I would be reaching for it, and I would try to pull my hand away, but it was as if something was too much stronger in my body, and I'd end up grabbing it. As soon as I would touch it, it was done. I was numb.
You're like an addict, essentially.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. So what I would do is after the binging, I'd go upstairs, I'd get my laptop. And at the time, I was super like interactive online. So I had a pretty active blog and stuff like that. I would read people's like messages while I would vomit, and I would never feel worried. Like I would never feel worth it.
Yeah.
And I would feel so ashamed, and it was part of my torture was to read these people praising me, and then I would torture myself because I was like, I don't deserve it. Like I've been sick all this time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still to this day don't understand why I did that, but I would read what they say in hopes that maybe they could help stop me.
Yeah.
Some messages I would get from people at the time did, because most people at the time, like I didn't tell my bulimia until 2014. I didn't come out. Most of the time they talk about my back and stuff like that. And I was like, to help me. And then when I finally opened up about bulimia in 2014, it was like, I felt naked for like years. Bro, like I think for the first 2 weeks after I opened up about bulimia, I thought the man on the street who was homeless knew about it and was thinking about it when I drove by. Like, oh, there's the girl with the eating disorder. And like, I just felt like the whole world knew.
Yeah.
And I probably cried for 2 weeks straight because I hid that for 5 years, like all by myself.
Yeah.
Just torturing myself, going and winning races somehow. And most of the time during my races, I would have severe heartburn.
Yeah, of course.
Weird heart palpitations too.
Yeah.
I still carry a lot of weird issues now, like valve issues. So if I were to eat and lay down, it would come up because I was so severe with the throat. So I think the emotional pain definitely carries on, and dealing with being an ultra like athlete, and then, dealing with it was, I don't really know how I did it. I was just numb.
Yeah.
It was just a survival thing for me.
So coming out of it now, now that you're in this place, that you have a little bit more self-awareness around it now, and you're 24, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's not like you're old.
I'm not like...
But half your life you were broken, really. You were 12. So
yeah.
What does it feel like now? Like when you're on this side of it, and I'm sure there's still a lot of things come up and desires come up. And it can get kind of crazy. Except when I met you, we were at the dog park.
Yeah, I know.
And I was like, wow, this person's super awesome. But I was like, damn, this girl's a boss. That's what that's what I was thinking. And and we got to know each other. And to me, I would have never thought that.
Yeah. I didn't want anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say for the first time since I was a little girl, I think I know who I am now. And it's a crazy feeling, but there's obviously times where I might stumble, or there might be something that kind of makes me feel offset, that's just life. But I think after all those years, I finally really understood what an emotional intelligence is. So the more I got to know myself through all these like dark times, and I tried my hardest to journal. And I know you spoke about journaling a little bit earlier, but I tried my hardest, like anytime I'd binge or have like weird triggers that I thought would happen, I would try to write down everything to the smallest detail. What did I eat days before? What was I wearing? Did someone say something to me? Because I was 12 years old when like real shit happened to me.
Yeah.
So I have no idea like what actually sets me off sometimes. Yeah. So it was like really trying to learn that and be patient with myself. Nowadays it's kind of surreal to talk about it. Like just 3 years ago, I was sitting around toilets like vomiting all the time. Nowadays, I can't even tell you the last time I purged or binged, really.
Yeah.
It's been probably about 2 years. But it's also kind of weird because even though I lost the identity as an athlete for quitting, I also lost the identity of Ella with bulimia, who was big. She was dedicated. Like, shit, I will wake up at 5, go train. At the time I was an athlete, so I had all the time in the world to train, but I was so strict and I was so like almost religious with the diet, with everything. I'm not so much anymore. I'm more like flowing, like allowing mistakes to happen and telling myself to take the time to learn them, which actually is more painful now because then you start like, I think anyone who has trauma that happens after them 14 carries a lot of like, like some type of like, little weird mental issues where you have to kind of like go through them.
They're pretty ingrained.
Yeah. I've got some, little cracks in my head, but it's just trying to take time to appreciate and understand them now. And even though it hurts most of the time, I'm very glad that I like try my hardest to understand them. Yeah. Because for years I kept putting the dead kitties under the under the rug, and now there's like 20 dead kittens. And now I'm like taking the kittens out, like, so sorry, Fluffy. Like, it's trying to learn yourself.
Did you find it yourself like finding a way to have compassion for yourself through all of that?
Yes, I think The death race taught me compassion and stuff like that because it broke me down spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
So when I used to do those races all the time, I would say like, yo, bro, I need this. Like, I need to be in this race. I want someone to break me down because I spent years breaking my own self down.
Yeah.
And then I already had a body that already broke down.
Yeah.
Which wasn't even my like control. So in a way, like I wanted that and I thought maybe that's what I needed. I thought, oh well, I need tough love. Like I need to go out there and just like scavenge for myself, which did teach me a lot of things about myself. But the more compassion I learned was actually giving to others.
Yeah.
So, you know, doing the races gave to myself. It gave me the type of like release, like of going out and being crazy, because that's definitely the extreme Ella. Like I always will have that. But also, you know, when I quit, I was like, okay, well, I need to make money. So I started doing massage. Massage taught me like to give to people and like not literally just touch, but like my energy. So the more I gave to people, the more I started learning how I wanted to be loved.
Oh, okay.
And so I started learning like, okay, like I want to be loved this way. And so I started learning by giving love to others how to love my own self.
Yeah.
And then of course, like later on I got the dog, and I got my first dog in 2014 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she gave me purpose, you know, as cheesy as it is, like she really made me want to live better.
Yeah.
And it like makes me want to cry, but like I started like wanting to live for the dog, you know?
Yeah.
I needed something to give love to because I was just so empty. I didn't know how to give love to myself, but I knew very well how to give love to others because I wanted to be loved so bad, like desperately to the point where I would be in a bad relationship for about 3 years. Or anything, you know?
And you created that for yourself.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Like you would seek it out, it almost seems like.
Yeah, because when you don't love yourself, you're able to accept toxic things without realizing it. Yeah, because you
feel like you deserve it.
Yeah, in a way. And you almost feel like there's no other way because throughout your whole life you've been struggling. You know?
That's all there is.
There's just shit.
Yeah, it's always going to suck because it's been a fucking shit show. I totally feel that, 100%. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit sick. So yeah, that's huge, and that's something I also want to dive into. It's when you learn those patterns so early of essentially torturing yourself and feeling like you deserve pain all the time. Like breaking out of that is something a lot of people don't do, and given that you have a really extreme case, but a lot of people do that for themselves.
Yeah.
In some way, and I think that that's one of the big messages of this show is helping people first off have compassion for. I think that compassion for yourself is the first step to any kind of fulfillment because you're gonna see your shit.
Yeah.
You know, and seeing your kittens under the rug is not essential. It's not easy. You're like, damn, I did that. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now what? All right. So I have to accept that. I have to find acceptance for myself and where I've been and what I've done and how I did it and how I created it for myself, which gives you an air of ownership over your own experience in your own life. And then you can go forward. But until then, and wrangling that and creating that, that environment in your head is fucking difficult.
Right. And if you don't ever try to, you know, get to know yourself, you're not going to know yourself at an emotional, intelligent level.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to position yourself emotionally to have and experience a better life. All you're going to be doing is sulking into like all the dead kittens on top of your issues, you know?
Yeah.
Like, essentially, right?
The dead kitten metaphor is really funny.
I just keep using it.
Just keep using the dead kitten metaphor.
You know, I like cats.
I love cats. Cats are great.
Just to let you know.
But exactly. That's why you don't want to see the dead kittens. God.
I used to do leopard print hair. Cats are cool.
Your leopard print hair was dope.
I know that shit was expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. So and now you've kind of created a different identity for yourself when it comes to social media, and I mean, and that's a huge part of our world now.
Oh God.
And the version of yourself that you put out there. So what was that transition like into what you're doing now, and how you represent yourself?
So for the longest time, I used to feel super like salty, like just salt when I would go on Instagram because I used to see, so I'm just going to talk about my own flaws. I used to get kind of bitter and like jealous and very insecure when I'd go on Instagram or something and I'd see my old competitor friends like killing it or like people who I used to be bigger than rising up. And here I was, first off, I was competing at a young age, very successful, very sick too. But one thing is like people don't understand that I had to quit one because I was sick, and I also was let go by company. And I was insulted by 2 companies for my eating disorder. One company that's actually huge now.
So once you came out with your eating disorder, they were like, yeah, we can't fuck with you?
So I never say their name, but it's very easy to figure out who it is. So it was my first sponsor. In 2014, I guess I'll just kind of briefly tell you how I opened up. So I went to my second brother's Marine OCS graduation.
Yeah.
Growing up, he was my hero. We played Halo together. I used to make him and his bros like the noodles in the box shit. Like I loved my brother Casey.
Yeah.
Still love him so much. And so he was my hero. So we go to see him graduate Marine OCS. It's a big deal. Lots of my family are there. Family events were super anxious for me because most of the time I was circled around food and everyone was super happy and I was not. So during the whole entire reception, I think I probably ate 10 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. We went to a Brazilian steakhouse that night to celebrate his dinner, which was the most dangerous place for me to be at.
Yeah, unlimited food.
I ate until I was sick. I was so disconnected and so terribly lost during a time where my family was rejoicing my brother's graduation.
Yeah.
I felt so selfish and so sick of it. So we were actually flying home the next day. And I probably had a nice little Christmas belly.
Yeah.
And it hurt. Binging hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, it fucking hurts. And purging is even worse because you're twisting your guts up a little bit and all of that. So I was sitting there. And I'm just kind of sobbing quietly. And I look over and there's this old lady. She's probably wearing a matching JCPenney outfit.
Yeah.
She's fucking adorable. She's sleeping, probably 80 years old.
Yeah.
And I realized I would never be her if I continued to be her.
Yeah.
All I was.
Yeah.
So I had my phone. It was on 10% battery. And I wrote a blog. And when we got home that night, I went to my computer, rewrote it, read it 20 times, and then posted it, and probably did the most obnoxious cry. Yeah. And then that's how I opened up. So about 2 months later, the company develops this model called Fuck Balance, which was essentially a stab at my blog post. And then somehow things blew up, and they tell me, oh, we're going to drop you because you look fat and unathletic. You were very fat on our tour. You wore these shorts that showed how fat you were. You'll never be perfect. You're a bad affiliate. They also accused me of cheating. And so I was dropped. And I was 19, 20 years old. And I had just written a blog about how I almost lost a fork in my throat the year before and died. So I immediately was dropped. And it really crushed me. I was very young. The year before, I briefly just said it, I almost died from a purge. I lost a fork in my throat, maybe was in there for a few seconds, but I was able to see my mom finding me dead. And I was trying so hard to recover. And so when that happened to me, I started understanding, wait a minute, this fitness industry is complete bullshit. But I still hadn't registered it just yet, okay? So that happened. A year later, I'm still trying to keep that racing identity up while still letting go of the bulimia identity. Yeah. So I was trying super hard to quit bulimia while still competing. I eventually figured out I had to quit competing in order to get rid of bulimia.
Yeah.
I had to. Because I'm just so extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2015, I got a stellar contract deal with another company. They basically were offering me this huge deal. They wanted to make a whole supplement line out of me. I ended up having to relapse 2015. I had to go to the hospital. I overdid some diuretics and laxatives, got pretty sick, fainted.
Yeah.
Wasn't actually a big deal, but whatever. So I actually tell the company what happens because I was scheduled to race 2 months later. And basically their response was oh, well, you know what? We've been thinking we're a little uncomfortable with you and your bulimia thing. So we've actually voided your contract for the past 2 months. So you could go sign with someone else.
Yeah. That's
thanks.
Yeah.
I think I will.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up still going and doing that race, and I got third with my teammate. It was a 20-hour desert race.
Yeah.
Pretty dope. But I quit slowly after that. I just had to. And so one, I had to quit because of my sanity and my health and for just living.
Yeah.
And also, I was forced. Like, people were very mean to me as a young girl.
Yeah.
And this is when I started understanding, like, wait a minute, the fitness industry, now don't tell me this is a legit industry about health and wellness if they're going to, like, tell a 19-year-old girl who just confessed, hey, I almost died, and I've been having an eating disorder for the past 3 years. Oh, by the way, you were fat anyway, so we're just going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
That is not an actual health and wellness industry at all. So I started realizing it. And, yeah. And then sure enough, so that was like 2015. Now we come to 2016, 2017. Now you see, protein next to a bikini butt. Yeah. And you see like, colon cleansing teas, and you see just BS all the time.
Yeah. Wait, skinny teas don't work?
Yeah,
I've been getting ripped on skinny teas. I'm so ripped. I got an ab now.
Yeah,
it's
wow.
Lit. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. You must be shitting a lot.
Yeah, shit all the time. My ass photos are on fleek though.
Yeah, yeah.
Do people say on fleek anymore?
I don't
think so. I do.
I think I see a little fleek every now and then.
Every now and then, a glimmer of fleek.
Yeah, so that's when I started understanding, like, yo, I don't like this whole fitness industry thing. And
well, it can be super toxic because, again,
yeah.
it's the same thing. It's you're playing a game that has a shelf life.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Not always gonna look like that, bro.
No.
And it's guys and girls, but I think girls end up getting it. It's a surface level validation, And I have a robust Instagram. I think I do a decent job, and I leverage certain things, but it comes with understanding that it's a fucking game.
It is, and
it's a game. And the game can't run you.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, man.
Yeah. So
it's like Tron. You get sucked in. If you die in Tron, you die for real.
Yeah. There is no 3 lives.
Yeah,
you're done. And so after I lost that identity and like kind of was forced to step away for my own reasons and for the other people who had done harm to me, I started trying to like, okay, maybe I could find some appreciation from what they did. Okay, so it's the same thing as the compassion. Like, this wasn't my fault, and like try not to beat myself up over it. So I was like, okay, when I finally quit racing, it was fucking weird. Like, I miss competing. I sometimes don't feel like Ella because like I'm not out there like running around as much. I'm not like chopping wood, doing all that crazy shit. Like, that is definitely my soul, and she'll come back like part of that, but like maybe not full time. But I started trying to think like, okay, what made me happy before like I got sick, or before people had done me wrong, or before I was even like famous. And I started thinking, oh yeah, that's right. I used to go hiking all the time. I used to draw. So I'd say probably this year I started drawing again.
Yeah.
And I just like, I wasn't meaning to make a business out of it. I was just like, I'm just going to draw because that shit makes me happy. And so I started drawing, and sure enough, people are like, yo, I like your art. Could you draw me a tattoo? And I'm like, yeah, I could draw you a tattoo.
Hell
and
yeah.
then sure enough, like now I keep a commission list of like 5 people making some decent money. Like, and it's cool because it's like a passion, and it's a very beautiful way to express like how I feel.
Yeah, it's a form of expression that you'd let go. I mean, people don't know this, but like I actually quit doing art when I was like, I think I started doing art like from 4th grade to 7th grade out of school. So it was like, I would go to this lady's house who taught pastel art, and I started like, yeah, it was awesome. And then I had to quit because I played football, and football became like my life. Yep. But it's like, I still miss that. And I bought a coloring book the other day, or a while back, and I just found it the other day, and I started like coloring. I was just like, it's something. It's just something. It's something that you turn your mind off, and you get to only focus on this one thing. It's like this weird meditation.
It really does. Like I'm probably a really boring person at my house. I'm kind of an introvert when I get to the house.
Yeah.
So I most of the time you'll just see me like cuddled with my dogs drawing. Like, that's all I really do.
Yeah.
And I'm just really lost in the art of it, and I get to kind of relax my mind. So it's maybe a very less extreme approach of becoming numb. So instead of like me going and racing for 72 hours, I could at least draw, and I could at least have a mind relaxed. Because for me to relax my mind, it's either I need to go compete for a long time or maybe do some art. Like,
but I wouldn't even call that numbness. It's just like, it's just a form of expression that feels authentic to you.
Yes.
Like for you competing or creating. I mean, even competing is creating in a way. Like you're creating something, especially the ones you guys do, where you are having to like build ladders out of yourselves and carry rocks and shit.
Yeah,
like that's wild. I mean, the competing. I competed for a long time, and again, the same thing. I realized whenever I competed in CrossFit for 7 years, but for me it was different because I knew I was gonna always be good enough to be kind of satisfied, but never as good as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in was doing some jerks, if you know what jerks are. And I was doing cluster sets. So it's like you do one rep and then you rest 15 to 20 seconds and do another one. And I was doing sets of 5, I think. And in that one set, I thought about this the other day and I hadn't thought about it in a long time. I remember after the first rep, I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? And then I did another one. And then I was, and
shit sucks.
And I love it. I still love doing it. But I remember going like, it's because I have something I want to say. And this is the only way that I know to get eyes on me and ears on me to say what I need to say, that I feel like it matters.
Yeah.
And then I did another rep, and then I was like, it was funny that I missed one because I was like so in my head. But that was a big moment for me when I was like, I'm just hiding behind this shit now. I've got to stop. And I quit as I was right before I sold my gym and got out of that, and then just quit competing, quit coaching. I was like, I can just keep hiding behind this shit forever, and then it'll be too late. I have to just go on my own and cut ties. And that part of recreating of yourself is super fucking powerful. Like I'm in the middle of doing that again right now, and I just see the power in it. I see the power in letting it go.
Right.
Like let's let the shit go. It served you. It served me at one point, but it doesn't now, and I have to just. And sometimes you have to know you can just do it for yourself. Like I can just stop doing that thing that's been so validating for me for so long, and just do something for myself.
Right, because you don't owe anyone anything.
No.
Like ever. But we constantly like live like we owe someone a fucking awesome Instagram post about our life.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, you have to be like, if you want to be a professional business person, you have to be two things. You have to be a social media influencer and a business person.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. Like you have to be active on social media in order to have a business.
Yeah, you do.
And at the same time, I'm like one of those people that now I'm like, oh, social media is cool, but I'm really not wanting to highlight my whole life all the time.
Yeah.
And it sucks because
when it's hard too on social media because you get tempted to only do the things that are the highlights. Like I think I do a pretty decent job of putting I can go in all the posts, and I write longer form posts on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I can be like, every one of the best ones I've ever written I was going through the darkest shit of my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, and it's like people think that I'm like fucking enlightened or something. I'm like, no, dude, I just have a way of verbalizing the shit.
Right. And
I can verbalize the shit and it resonates because everybody goes through the shit.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
It's huge, man. But it's crazy. And what do you feel about? Because I feel like you came through a fucking horrendous like situation with your body. What do you feel about body positivity and how that can be like applied effectively, especially for women?
I think there's such thing as like pushing positive stuff positively. And nowadays we see like a twist on people pushing stuff actually negatively. So one thing we see a lot is like, okay, body positive people, but we also see body positive people only bashing people who have done something wrong. There's no such thing as like just actually being positive without having to highlight others. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. I don't know how to like technically say it too much because it's just like a random thought, but like body positivity and like the radical self-love movement right now is amazing. Like people are starting to tell their stories and talk more about what's going on. And that in return makes more people open up to not feel alone and communicate about their issues. But at the same time, we see a lot of the people using it for the wrong reason. Yeah. Like I'm not going to say names, but there's some companies that literally, they have a great message. It's like, we accept all bodies, but fuck all the people who don't do it or who airbrush their models. That's the thing that like is still being a bully. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have a great message. You're still bashing other people.
A friend of mine, Samantha Skelly, who's I love her to death. Yeah. She wrote "Hungry for Happiness." Okay. And she dealt with the same. She was a dancer. She dealt with an eating disorder as well, and came through it. And is just an amazing human being. And she put out a video, the body positivity is bullshit or something like that. Yeah. And it's because it's only geared towards big girls. Yeah. Really. It's like, well, what about girls that are chronically skinny? Yeah. And what about girls that don't have big tits? And what about girls that like can't get an ass? It's about people that are thick. It's like it's generated for thick girls, and that's not really fair. And then sometimes like there's you don't want to criticize somebody for the situation that they're in and their experience has got them there, but you also do want the best for people. So it's about finding a balance. Yeah. And that's a culture we're so fucking weird about that shit. It's like, oh, now this is all wrong and this is all right. And it's like, dude, can we just all agree that everybody's trying to do their best? Yeah. So just let's operate under that assumption.
Because it's too easy to be extreme.
Yeah, it is super easy to be. I'm in this camp or I'm in this camp. I'm in the body positivity camp. So if you're skinny, you're fucking must be a selfish bitch. Yeah. And it's like a selfish bitch. Sorry.
And they probably eat, fries all all day. Like,
Yeah.
I had a friend growing up who could not put a pound on her.
Yeah. And it's like, and I'm sure that's her own struggle. And it's like, she doesn't even get validated in the fact that she has a hard time because she's not, thicky thick.
Right.
And it's like, it's a weird fucking situation we put ourselves in where everybody wants to join a camp and be behind a movement. But in the same time, they're belittling people that don't fit. You're doing the same thing.
And the only tactic they mainly use is just being naked. Like, okay, like I think, and there should be a balance or whatever, like goes back to it. Like, if you want to show your body, I think that's fucking cool. Like, you should be proud of your body, but if that's your only selling tactic and your only way to show your product, then you're sucking. Like, you're not creative.
You're not really adding value.
You don't have any good advertisement. You don't have essentially a good message at the end of the day. It's just, hey, I'm positive about bodies. Here's my thick body. There's nothing to it. What do you actually like? Where's your lessons? Where are you helping people? Other than the fact that you're saying, thick girls have body too. Like, okay, I was once super thick. Now I'm like, now my body's gone down. But, I don't know.
I think you're still pretty thick. In a good way.
In a good way, yeah. My butt's kind of gotten small and it makes me very sad. I look at it and I'm like, where are you going?
Where you go? Yeah, mine's gotten small too. I can fit in pants now. It kind of makes me sad too.
I know. I'm actually able to wear jeans now and I'm like, whoa.
I know. But I feel like I don't want to be able to wear jeans. I go buy skinny jeans and I'm like, damn it, but they look so good.
Damn it, all I want to wear is underwear though.
I know. I just want to wear tights all the time. Well, it's different when I just wore Lululemon all the time. I could just get away with it.
Yeah.
With my haunches, big old haunches. Once upon a time, but yeah, dude, I think that there's something to be said for that, and also just the transparency of what are you doing to create your life? What are you doing to create your body? And the best one, you're in this meat suit that's floating around.
Yeah.
And you get what you get, but you can also live a healthy, conscious life. Work on your emotional intelligence. Level up in all these different ways, but you got to, if you're going to be out there sharing yourself, it's got to be from a place of compassion, understanding, and not jumping into a fucking camp.
Yeah, exactly. Or just using something that only benefits you and makes you look good.
Yeah. It's like, this is what I got, so it's the best.
yeah, right? No, never.
Well, shit, dude, this has been fun.
Yeah,
lots of good rants here. So what are you working on now? You said you have some cool projects coming out. Speaking of body positivity and being naked, or not naked, I don't know. Wait.
Yeah, actually, I guess I would like to speak about it. I've been super low key about it, and I still probably won't go into too much detail just because it's super startup, and I don't want
everybody who's listening to this is super privileged. They're getting some behind the scenes info.
Yeah, y'all are some lucky bitches. But I am developing my own underwear and sports bra and casual wear line, and I've had pretty much all mock-ups, but I'm basically just a one-man team right now. Been working with some consultants and stuff, and it's super exciting for me, but it's a huge labor of love. So between doing part-time massage, drawing, trying to still kind of work out, and then doing lots of research and designing on my own, I have a very full plate right now, but it's definitely in the works, and I'm silly excited for it.
What's the kind of what's the deal with it? What's the thought behind why that? I guess is the
okay. So it's actually kind of a cheesy, cute story. So kind of like what we kind of were going through. My whole life I'd struggled with my body that didn't work, and then I got it to work, and then I kind of abused it and hurt it. Battled that whole body thing for years, and it was between physical and emotional and mental stuff that I dealt with. And so these past 2 years I worked very hard at the compassion and trying to find love for myself. So one day I sat down, and this is probably sometime January of this year. So I'm notorious for always wearing a crop top and underwear. That's my life. If I could wear that every day, I would just be walking around like that. Okay, so I sat down.
You can, if you want to.
Yeah, right. I sat down to do some writing or drawing that day. And it was this weird bubble had hit me, and suddenly I started checking out my body. And I was looking at my hip where the underwear was sitting, and I just was it was my Ninja Turtle underwear. And I was looking at it and I was like, wow, I like my body. This feels good. I want other women to feel this way. I feel loved right now. And then so I did the cheesy thing, how do you start a clothing company online? And started researching, business plan, pitch decks, learning this, and started drawing all these underwear ideas, sports bras, little crop top stuff. Mm-hmm. And so basically the story comes from dealing with never loving my body. So my company is called Loved. This Body is Loved. So it's all kind of a whole loved thing. And it's a every proceed that you would buy from me would be donated towards the Eating Foundation Recovery Center. And so basically I am in the works of developing an online I want to say like a platform blog profile area where people can go on and have discussion boards over, any type of thing they're dealing with. So it's essentially like a safe place to speak about, and you can actually get free resources towards depression, anxiety, eating disorders. You can learn about stuff for free. Like it'd be all of this.
Know that you're not alone.
It'd be all of this stuff, and you'd have access to it, and then you could get, my underwear, rock on, and then like socks and stuff. So, it's totally like and the reason why it came from the underwear was from that story, but it's also like that's like the first thing you really put on. Like I'm sure there's like that 10% of people who don't wear underwear, but when you do wear underwear, right? Yeah. Like that's the first thing that you're wearing. That's the thing that should be the most comfortable and the most confident. Like that's, and for a woman, it could make her feel sexy or it could make her not feel sexy. And so like developing the underwear and stuff and trying to make like a very positive message out of it and also giving back to people, super excited about. Yeah. And then some stuff I'm doing is like people can like become members online, and then like they get chances at like earning the privilege of me creating their design art like for their story and having limited run apparel for them, and then that proceed from that, like their clothing run, would go to them. So I just want a company that gives back. Like 100%. So right now I'm like in the whole like, okay, actually I think I need people. Like,
you need people.
I definitely need a squad. Because right now it's just been me for about a year, and I've had like mason jar after mason jar where I come home from, doing massage, and I'll slip in 20 or $10 or $5 trying to save money for it. Just kind of hustling, of course. So that's really exciting, and I'm spending a lot of time on that. And of course that's just some of the stuff for you. And then other than that, I do a lot of illustration for people, which like I was speaking about early, I didn't really expect it to be like a big time thing, but right now I've got like 5 people I got to draw for, and like I told you, it takes me a little bit of time because
if you want some sweet tattoos, you know where to go.
I love to draw, and like it's really cool that people like want to get my art. Like that fucking flattering is like so cool. Because I still think I have a long ways to go with it, but
Yeah, of course you do. You always will.
Right. So,
well, if I can make a request with your underwear line.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of bralettes.
Bralettes? Okay.
Shout out bralettes. Bras are so aggressive. Bras are so. I was like, why? Like it's like.
That's what I'm designing. It's not wired bras that I have or anything like. It's not like a Victoria's Secret by far. It's like more minimalist, cute, crazy little small straps. Like you.
Like we're on the same page.
Thinner, like not thinner material, but like comfortable.
I know.
Shit. I know. Yeah. So no like hardwired bras for me. It's more kind of like relaxing. So
sweet, I dig it. And then where can people find you online?
So Instagram for sure, which is just my name, ELLA Kociuba. Ola Kociuba.
How you spell Kociuba?
I know. I don't know why I spelled my first name like it's that hard.
Yeah.
Kociuba is Kociuba.
Yep. Super robust. Instagram. I think robust is the word I use for Instagram now.
Yeah. And then, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, but I'm probably more active on my Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and then whenever the line comes out, that'll be all on the IG as well.
Yeah. Which is, sweet. It's got some time. Probably maybe next year you'll see something happen.
Well, if anybody wants to support what you got going on, shout out on Instagram. If you can help in any way, show the body some love. Join the squad.
Join the squad. I'll hire you. I'll cook breakfast every day. We'll play with dogs and have coffee. That's
That'd
like
be great.
For sure.
All right, well, I think you're a bad bitch, and I'm super stoked that you came by and dropped in.
Yeah, this was fun.
All right, we'll see you later, dude.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. She can tell her damn story, can't she? Love it, guys. And again, if you love the show, head over to iTunes, give it a 5-star review. If you want to do some work with me one-on-one, dive into your motherfucking life, pull out your values, look at them, see your shadow, fully optimize and express yourself in a way that is a motherfucking game changer. I'm excited, still kind of sick, but excited. Head over to pleasuremonkeylife.com, click the lifestyle design tab, and fill out the short little survey. It's going to give me a little information about you. We're going to set up a 30-minute consult for free. Deep dive into your life, see where you're at, what challenges you're facing, and how we can attack those bitches. Let's do it, guys. And also, I want to give some love to the affiliates that work with us. Hate Brand Goods, the home of some of the best apparel of all time that I can speak to. I mean, there may have been some really dope apparel back in Rome. They had some pretty cool outfits. But as of now, the equivalent of Roman gladiator shields and chest plates. So, Hate Brand Goods, thehate.com, THEHVIII.com. Now, what do I recommend from Hate? I think you should snag some shorts and these new, I'm actually wearing one right now, the Ghost something. What are they fucking called? Ghost Series. That's right. Series is the word I was looking for. The Ghost Series shirts. They're essentially murdered out Hate Brand t-shirts. They fit awesome. They look awesome. I absolutely love them. And if you're in the gym and you're sweating, you can kind of see the logo pop through and it looks really, really dope. So that, and then the new duffel bag. Oh, the duffel bag is so sweet. Everything's great, guys. Head over to thehate.com. If you want to upgrade your language, go to procabulary.org. Use the code word monkey, and you're going to get $99 off the core language upgrade course that will literally change the fuck out of your life going into 2018. Do it. New Year's resolution, better self-talk, better conversation skills. It's going to help you make more money. You're going to get laid more. You're going to make more friends, and you are going to be more assertive. Make it happen. Also want to give some love to Hemp Lucid CBD. If you have any friends or you yourself are challenged with anxiety or you're sleeping like shit, you're stressed out because you got to spend time with your in-laws over the holidays, I think you should snag some CBD. Hemp Lucid full plant extract. So incredible. I use this stuff multiple times a day. I'm thinking like 300 milligrams a day, and it is keeping me even keel along with my Onnit Alpha Brain. Perfect combination. Hemplucid.com. Code word monkey is going to get you 15% off. Yeah, I think that's it right now. That's great. So code word monkey for all of those things. Hate Brand Good, 15%. Hemp Lucid, 15%, and $99 off the core language upgrade course. Also, Onnit.com, you guys know, /monkey makes it happen, 10% off. So many things, so many affiliate codes. Holidays coming up. Go buy some shit. I know you're inundated with fucking ads, and I'm just another person doing it, but hopefully they don't suck as bad as those stupid fucking holiday commercials on the TV. Jesus, they're terrible. They're terrible, guys. And here we are. I love y'all. Thank you for listening. We will see y'all next time. Bye.